9:30 p.m. on a Friday? What time is that to debut a first look at Avengers Infinity War? I gotta tell you, part of me feels, I know it was with a Robert Downey Jr. Facebook chat, but part of me feels that this is one way that the studio is dealing with contentious media. They're like, let's debut stuff like at ridiculous hours to give us a little bit of time just between ourselves and the fans, right? A little alone time for fans to come to their own conclusions, and then the media can weigh in. So I apologize that I was not able to cover this. I've had a rough couple of days. Now I'm very sick, but I'm here. I appreciate that some of you told me that you waited to watch this for me, so I'm not going to make you wait any longer. Let's take a look. Okay.
Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities.
This is really cool.
Forged into infinity stones.
Finally.
This is our first day. Here we are in Pinewood in Atlanta, and it's actually pretty unbelievable.
Day one of what promises to be a year of fun-filled lensing.
I remember actually going to see the first Avengers with one of my best mates from home, and I'd never have dreamed that I'd ever be in one of these movies, let alone playing Spider-Man.
I love you,
like
Tom Holland.
I'm on top of the world, because this is just mind-blowing.
He was my pick.
What we always try to do at Marvel Studios is we're building the cinematic universe, is look at the big picture. How can things relate across movies and across years? Avengers Infinity War is the culmination of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe as started in May of 2008 with the release of Iron Man 1. And it really is an unprecedented culmination of a series of films interlinked together,
it's black and white,
which at the time had never been done before. And for us, the important thing is making it all come together. We know they're going to face Thanos. We've been setting that up since Avengers 1. How do you do that in a way that is unexpected, that pits the Avengers against somebody who's more powerful than anyone they faced, and yet make them completely unprepared to face him? Well, tear them apart, which is why we did Civil War before Infinity War.
As we were conceiving and executing Civil War, the end of that movie was very much a setup for what these movies would be. We always had the sense of that.
That's the best shot in the whole movie.
Tony is not talking to Steve. The Avengers are basically a name with nobody in it. The world is vulnerable.
Tony senses this greater threat approaching, and so he is doing everything in his power to keep the Earth safe.
It's all about Tony. Still.
Thanos shows us why he's the biggest, the best, the baddest villain that we've ever had, and the most frightening villain that the Avengers have ever faced.
The most exciting part is the incredible roster of well-developed characters, and it's going to create a really combustible, exciting, massive-scale adventure.
You know that we're onto something within the studio when we hit upon an idea or we see a piece of concept art and all of us in the room go, this is cool. And in Avengers Infinity War, the Avengers will meet the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Show me more concept art. Oh, cool.
Because of what Marvel is, because of what they have done over the last 10 years, these next 2 Avengers films will be an event like no one has ever seen on film before.
It's very Star Warsy. Man, I feel like I'm in a theme park. Okay, let's go. What ride should we go on now? They play stuff like that all the time in the theme parks. I like it. I think, you know, Disney Marvel is just so good at their publicity machine at this point. The interest in this is insane. You can see how many views this has since last night, and Marvel should be very proud of that. And I think that they really have to start working on Thanos and the Infinity Stones now, because every time I talk to someone who isn't into comic books and only watches these movies casually, they have no idea what's going on. So I liked the animations that they put together for the Infinity Stones. I thought that was really cool. And I liked showing the history of the MCU, which has changed Hollywood. I mean, it is Hollywood history. It is up there with Star Wars, which is interesting because Star Wars has been around for so long that, we view it in that way. But history, when it's happening right before you, it doesn't quite hit you. But it hit me when I was watching that. I thought that was excellent. I'm curious to see how the actual movie turns out. Robert Downey Jr. Is such a strong force in the MCU. I'm very happy that Kevin Feige got himself in there. He's very much a presence at the events, the live events, Comic-Con, D23, press conferences, right? But I don't think he interacts with fans too much outside of those, through videos, right? You can find pictures of him on the red carpet at premieres, right? As I often do, because we're always talking about Kevin Feige. But I think that, I think he needs to, it's time for him to get, I think, become maybe more of a face, and to step forward as who's clearly the driving force of the MCU. But I also think that Robert Downey Jr. is a major driving force of the MCU. And I wonder what it's like for Chris Evans to be on set with him, because you can see that Chris Evans was not there in that opening shot with, who was it? It was Robert Downey Jr. interacting with Tom Holland, who of course is in Robert Downey Jr.'s next movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. And then of course Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think that Robert Downey Jr. has been salivating and getting his hooks into Guardians of the Galaxy since it was a surprise hit. They put Iron Man into Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics, and Robert Downey Jr. has talked about Guardians of the Galaxy and how much he admires the film, right? He's like, I need to get me in that, boy. Just like he got himself in the Captain America films after Winter Soldier was so incredibly well received. And I know some of you say, well, of course, we've had this discussion before, but there are articles that said that in Civil War, Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to have a very small role, but he negotiated himself into a co-starring role. And I think he's doing the same thing here. Robert Downey Jr., if you look at his schedule, well, he's supposed to make Sherlock Holmes 3. That's just been announced. And these are the only movies he has coming up, which is why you're seeing stuff about Avengers Infinity War before the 3 other Marvel movies come out that are up first. You have Spider-Man Homecoming, you've got Thor Ragnarok, and then you have Black Panther. And then, maybe they didn't show Captain America because they don't want to give away stuff that might happen in Black Panther. And I think that, they showed Thor with a different weapon, not Mjolnir, in that concept art. And you don't want to give anything away about Thor Ragnarok, right? This movie, you've just seen something for Avengers Infinity War before you've seen something for Justice League or Star Wars Episode 8, films which come out this year, whereas this doesn't come out until summer 2018. And the reason that they're filming now is because they're shooting 2 movies back to back, because they said they're going to shoot for a year, which is amazing. Although while they're doing that, I'm sure that they'll be shooting the first film first to some degree, and the editors will be compiling it simultaneously while they're shooting the second. But it's really fascinating. I think this was a great look at the history that the MCU is doing, and I think it was a really good look at who's in control, Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr., which has been the case from day one. And I don't know if anything will ever pry Robert Downey Jr.'s hands off of the MCU. I like him quite a bit, but I think that the future of the franchise is clearly Captain America based on the reactions. Even when Robert Downey Jr. for Civil War said, Team Iron Man has snacks, it didn't bring anybody over. And I think that considering that Captain America is like the heart and soul, I think, of the MCU right now, for him not to show up in there at all is quite telling. But I'm curious, what do you think about the movie, the history, and the politics of the MCU? All right, write your thoughts down below, and you can check out some more videos right now.